South China Sea, April 1st, local time 0822. A U.S. Navy EP-3E Ares II reconnaissance aircraft was flying in international airspace, altitude 22,500 feet, speed 280 knots, distance to Chinese coastline 70 miles. The aircraft was on a routine surveillance mission, monitoring Chinese naval communications, tracking military exercises, standard intelligence gathering that had been conducted for decades. The EP-3 consisted of 24 crew members, pilots, navigation specialists, signals intelligence operators, linguists, all members of Fleet Air Reconnaissance Squadron 1. Lieutenant Shane Osborn was the mission commander, 26 years old, Naval Academy graduate. This was his 47th surveillance flight over the South China Sea. The EP-3 was packed with specialized equipment, antenna arrays covering multiple frequency ranges, signal processing computers, recording devices, encryption systems. The crew included highly trained intelligence specialists, cryptologists with top-secret clearances, linguists fluent in Mandarin, analysts who could interpret raw signal data in real time. Their mission was to orbit just outside Chinese territorial waters and collect electronic intelligence. Every radar that activated, every radio transmission, every communication between Chinese ships and aircraft. The mission was proceeding normally, electronic systems operational, no threats detected, weather clear. But 15 miles away, two Chinese J-82 fighter jets were approaching. The J-82 was an interceptor, Chinese-designed, based on 1960s Soviet technology, maximum speed Mach 1.8, armed with air-to-air missiles and a 23mm cannon. The lead pilot was Wang Wei, fighter pilot with the People's Liberation Army Naval Air Force, known for aggressive intercepts, known for flying dangerously close to American reconnaissance aircraft. Wang Wei had intercepted U.S. planes 22 times in the previous 8 months. Each time he'd flown closer, establishing a pattern of increasingly risky maneuvers. In one previous intercept, he'd flown so close that American crew members photographed him through the window. In the photo, Wang Wei was smiling, waving, treating the intercept like a game. Chinese military doctrine called these close escort procedures, designed to harass, to intimidate, to demonstrate sovereignty over disputed waters. American pilots called it something else, dangerous and unprofessional. At 08:15, the Chinese fighters appeared on the EP-3's radar. The radar operator reported to Osborn, 2 contacts, bearing 270, range 12 miles, closing fast. Osborn wasn't concerned. This happened regularly. Chinese fighters would approach, fly alongside for a few minutes, then break off. Standard procedure was to maintain course and speed, to continue the mission, to not react. The EP-3 wasn't a combat aircraft. It had no weapons, no defensive systems beyond basic chaff and flare dispensers. Its only protection was international law and the expectation of professional airmanship. At 08:19, the J-8 Thuras pulled alongside the EP-3. Wang Wei's aircraft was 30 feet off the left wing, close enough that the American crew could see him in the cockpit. He was holding up a piece of paper with his email address written on it, taunting the Americans. This was Wang Wei's style, aggressive, provocative, playing games at 22,000 feet. His wingman maintained a more professional distance, 200 feet off the right side. The EP-3 crew had seen this before. They ignored him, continued their mission. Wang Wei moved closer, 20 feet, then 15 feet. Inside the EP-3, the crew was getting nervous. Too close, someone said. Osborn immediately keyed his radio, transmitted on international emergency frequency. Chinese fighter, you are flying dangerously close. Please increase separation. No response.
Wang Wei moved even closer, 10 feet off the wingtip. At this distance, the turbulence from the EP-3's propellers was affecting his aircraft. The J-82 bounced in the wake, unstable, difficult to control. The EP-3 had 4 turboprop engines, each driving a massive 4-bladed propeller. The prop wash created violent air disturbances extending dozens of feet from the aircraft. Flying in that turbulence required constant control inputs, constant corrections. It was like trying to balance on a surfboard in rough seas. But Wang Wei didn't back off. At 08:22:17, his aircraft suddenly pitched upward. The J-82's nose came up sharply, out of control. The fighter collided with the EP-3's left outboard propeller. The collision was catastrophic. The propeller was spinning at 1,020 RPM. The tips were moving at nearly 600 miles per hour. When the J-82 hit, the blades acted like a giant circular saw. The propeller tore through the J-82's vertical stabilizer. shredded the tail section, severed control surfaces, ripped off the entire empennage. Wang Wei's fighter disintegrated into pieces within minutes, broke into multiple pieces, started falling toward the ocean 22,000 feet below. Wang Wei ejected, his seat fired, separation was clean, his parachute deployed, but he was descending into the South China Sea. Water temperature 24 degrees Celsius. Chinese search and rescue launched immediately. Ships, helicopters, aircraft. They found debris, found his helmet floating in the water, found his parachute, but they never found Wang Wei. He was declared killed in action. The EP-3 wasn't much better off. The collision had destroyed the left outboard propeller. The shattered blades had damaged the left inboard engine, severed hydraulic lines, punctured fuel tanks. The collision had damaged the left wing's leading edge, and at 290 knots, that damage created enormous aerodynamic forces. The aircraft rolled violently to the left, nose pitched down. The autopilot had disengaged. Warning alarms screamed incessantly throughout the cockpit. Osborn grabbed the yoke, pulled back. Nothing happened. The aircraft was in an inverted dive, losing altitude at 4,000 feet per minute, airspeed increasing. 320 knots, 340 knots. Beyond that, the wings would separate, the fuselage would break apart. In the cabin, crew members were thrown against bulkheads, equipment tore loose, papers and debris flew everywhere. Senior Chief Petty Officer Nick Mellos was thrown headfirst into a control panel. His skull fractured, blood poured down his face. The aircraft fell from 22,500 feet to 8,000 feet in less than 2 minutes. Osborn and his co-pilot, Lieutenant Patrick Honeck, pulled back on the yoke with everything they had, both men straining, muscles screaming. The control cables were damaged, the hydraulic boost was failing. Moving the flight controls required superhuman physical force. At 7,500 feet, the nose began to rise. At 7,000 feet, the aircraft leveled out. Osborn was drenched in sweat. His arms felt like they were on fire, but they were flying, barely. He assessed the damage. One engine completely destroyed, propeller gone, just a shattered hub spinning uselessly. The left inboard engine was running but damaged, vibrating badly, oil pressure dropping, hydraulics failing. The gauges showed pressure dropping in all 3 systems. Electrical systems compromised. Half the instruments were dark. Fuel leaking from damaged tanks in the left wing. Osborn could see it streaming behind the aircraft. The nearest friendly airfield was Okinawa, Japan, 800 miles away. Osborn thoroughly calculated fuel consumption, airspeed, remaining engine power, rate of fuel loss. They wouldn't make it. They'd run out of fuel 200 miles from Okinawa. The only realistic option was China, Hainan Island, Lingshui Airfield, Chinese military base, 60 miles southwest. Landing there meant internment, interrogation, potential imprisonment, compromise of classified systems, but the alternative was death for all 24 crew members. Osborn made the call. "We're going to Hainan," he said. He transmitted on emergency frequency. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday." U.S. Navy aircraft declaring emergency, requesting permission to land at nearest available airfield. Chinese air traffic control responded immediately. "State your position and intentions. We have suffered a mid-air collision with Chinese fighter, 1 engine destroyed, multiple systems failing, requesting emergency landing at Hainan." There was a pause, then permission granted. "Proceed direct to Lingshui Airfield. Runway 27, wind 250 at 12 knots. Osborn turned toward Hainan. Every control input was a battle. The aircraft wanted to roll left, wanted to dive. In the cabin, crew members were destroying classified materials. This was the nightmare scenario. Landing in a hostile country with an aircraft full of intelligence systems and classified documents. Intelligence documents went into shredders, burn bags. Some were simply torn apart by hand.
Hard drives were removed from computers, smashed with hammers, circuit boards broken into pieces. Encryption devices were the priority. KG-84 encryption units, KIV-7 equipment. These systems contained cryptographic keys that protected US military communications worldwide. The crew used axes, hammers, whatever they could find, smashing the units, destroying the memory modules. But there wasn't enough time. The EP-3 carried some of the most advanced signals intelligence equipment in the US military. Systems that had cost hundreds of millions of dollars to develop. At 0847, the EP-3 approached Lingshui Airfield. Osborn had no landing gear indication. The hydraulic system had failed. The gear position indicators were dark. He flew low over the runway. Chinese air traffic controllers confirmed visually. Gear appears to be down. Osborn lined up for final approach. The aircraft was sluggish, barely responding. He had almost no hydraulic pressure. Airspeed too high. Should be 140 for landing. But he didn't dare slow down. descent rate too fast, 800 feet per minute, normal was 300. At 0851, the EP-3 touched down, hard, much harder than normal. The landing gear absorbed the impact, held. The aircraft bounced once, settled, rolled down the runway. No brakes, the hydraulics were completely gone. Osborn used reverse thrust on the remaining engines. The plane slowed, finally stopped, 4,000 feet down the runway. Chinese military vehicles immediately surrounded the aircraft. Troops, officers, intelligence personnel, armed guards. Osborn ordered the crew to remain aboard, to not open the doors, to continue destroying sensitive materials. For 15 minutes they worked, breaking, smashing, throwing items out the emergency hatches. Then Chinese soldiers forced open the main door. An officer appeared, speaking English. "Exit the aircraft immediately." Osborn stood at the door. "We are a US military aircraft. We declared an emergency. We request contact with the American embassy. You will exit now, or we will remove you by force." The crew was taken into custody, separated immediately. Each crew member isolated in different rooms. The interrogations began within an hour. "Why were you in Chinese airspace?" "We were in international airspace. Your fighter collided with us. You invaded Chinese territory. You caused the collision. You killed our pilot." The interrogators were insistent, rotating every few hours to keep pressure constant. The crew members stuck to their training, name, rank, service number, date of birth, nothing else. Meanwhile, the aircraft was being systematically exploited. Chinese intelligence teams swarmed over the EP-3, photographing every component, removing hard drives, downloading data from any system still functional. Despite the crew's destruction efforts, significant intelligence was compromised. US intelligence agencies later estimated the damage as severe and long-lasting. In Washington, the crisis escalated rapidly. President George W. Bush had been in office for only 71 days. This was his first major international incident. Chinese state media broadcast continuously. American spy plane invades Chinese airspace. Chinese pilot heroically defends sovereignty. American aggression kills Chinese hero. The propaganda was effective. Anti-American protests erupted across China. Crowds gathered outside the US embassy in Beijing, throwing rocks, burning flags. The Chinese government demanded an apology, compensation, admission of guilt. The US government refused. "We will not apologize for operating in international airspace." Negotiations stalled. Days passed. The crew remained in detention, isolated, under constant surveillance. Finally, on April 11th, a compromise was reached. The United States would express regret, not an apology, carefully worded regret. Joseph Pruher, US ambassador to China, delivered a letter. "Dear Mr. Minister, we are very sorry for the loss of Chinese pilot Wang Wei. We are very sorry that the entering of China's airspace and the landing did not have verbal clearance. The Chinese government declared victory. America admits guilt. The US government maintained a different interpretation. We expressed humanitarian regret for loss of life." On April 12th, the crew was released. They boarded a US government-chartered airliner, flew to Guam, then to Hawaii, then home. They were treated as heroes, medal ceremonies, presidential recognition, but the intelligence damage was devastating. The EP-3 had been thoroughly compromised, every system examined, technology copied. The aircraft itself remained in Chinese custody for 3 months. It was eventually returned, disassembled, shipped on a Russian Antonov An-124 transport plane. American technicians reassembled it, but it never flew again. Too damaged, too compromised. It sits today in the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida. The collision changed US-China relations fundamentally. Military contacts were suspended, trust evaporated. Wang Wei became a martyr in China. His image appeared on propaganda posters. Schools were named after him. Lieutenant Shane Osborn received the Distinguished Flying Cross, but he never flew reconnaissance missions again. In interviews years later, he was asked, "Do you think about Wang Wei?" Osborn was quiet. Every day, he chose to fly that close, a reckless choice, and it killed him. "Do you feel responsible?" "I'm responsible for my crew, for getting them home alive." Wang Wei is responsible for his own decisions. The EP-3 incident revealed a fundamental truth about great power competition. Conflicts don't always start with declarations of war. They start with miscalculations, with aggressive maneuvers, with decisions made in seconds. Wang Wei thought he could control his aircraft at 10 feet separation. He couldn't. That miscalculation killed him, nearly killed 24 Americans, compromised critical intelligence, and permanently changed the strategic relationship between two nuclear powers. The South China Sea remains contested. Aircraft still intercept each other, still fly close, still test boundaries. But after April 1st, 2001, everyone remembers what happens when you fly too close. Metal tears.